Thanks for checking out this video. This is the 1972 installment of the 1970s horror movie superlatives series that I'm doing with your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. The link to his channel is in the description of this video. So finish out this video to get my picks, go over to his channel, get all of his picks from his video, then come back here to my channel, go to the community page, and vote on who you want to vote for, basically. Whose picks did you like the most? Whose justifications were the best? Whatever satisfies it, it's a for fun type thing. And it's just, I know some people have been having a lot of fun doing the voting, kind of like weighing our picks and making tough decisions sometimes. But yeah, this has been fun. Just a reminder on this one, this is just based off of movies that each of us have seen from this particular year. So there may be picks that you think of that you're like, oh man, this pick would be way better for this category. Maybe I haven't seen it. Maybe Uncle Pete hasn't seen it. Or maybe that's just not our opinion. So, these are just our opinions, but that's why we also like to hear your opinions. So put it in the comments. What would you choose for these categories as well? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know about some films we may not know about from this year because we are into that. I don't know how long his watch list is of movies to get to, but mine is gigantic, but I just keep adding to it and I'm fine with that. Variety's a spice of life, everyone. Anyway, don't want to delay too much longer. Let's get to the most amazing pick for 1972. I am going with the film Sisters. This is a Brian De Palma film, so you know it looks really good. It's pre-Carrie and pre-like De Palma really becoming De Palma style-wise, but he does the split screen, which looks really interesting in this film. Has Margot Kidder as the main character in this, who does an outstanding job. She really does I don't want to say the particular mode of acting that she does well, because it might kind of like tip the hand of what's going on with the film, but she does an amazing job. It's really good. It's a very interesting film. It's basically about a woman who lost her sister and was in a mental institution, and then she gets out. She ends up, someone ends up killing someone, and it looks like it was her, and then someone shows up to try and help her cover it up, and it's this whole thing while there's a neighbor who sees what went down and is trying to basically prove that she killed this person. So it takes a lot of twists and turns, well, some twists and turns, and it's a really satisfying story. It's very interesting, and like I said, Margot Kidder does a great job. Brian De Palma does a great job. It looks phenomenal. So if you haven't seen Sisters, definitely see it. That's my pick for most amazing for 1972. Now my best so bad it's good pick. This is going to go to Night of the Lepus. If you have not seen Night of the Lepus, it is literally about gigantic killer rabbits. Sounds ridiculous, right? It is, because here's the thing. They tried their best to make these rabbits look hostile and scary by putting ketchup on their mouths. Yes, ketchup on their mouths. They don't look hostile or scary at all, and it's just funny to watch that. It's a fun movie in addition to being funny because of how ridiculous it is. But it's also cool to see these bunnies just kind of like hopping around on like these little model towns and destroying stuff. And there's some interesting characters in the film, but I mean, it's really just about like the rabbit mayhem. And it's a really fun film, and it's obviously not good. The acting's not too bad, honestly, but yeah, it is a sight to be seen. If you have not seen The Lepus, definitely check that out. I know that's a subgenre of horror film that was happening a lot of normal sized things being blown up to large proportions, usually having to do with some sort of nuclear something or other. So there are a lot of those kind of ridiculous films out there. I know Frogs also came out in 72 as well, but I actually have not seen Frogs. So I'm picking Night of the Lepus. Wonderful. I do need to get to Frogs. I will. So best so bad it's good pick for 72, Night of the Lepus. Now my most WTF pick of 1972. This is one I've heard nothing about. I found this one on my own. I don't know that a lot of you know about this film or have seen this film. It's called Private Parts. Now, it is not the Howard Stern film. It has nothing to do with the Howard Stern film that came out much later. But it's literally about a girl who runs away from home to go see her aunt who runs this hotel of very weird, interesting people who live there. Very weird and interesting people who live there. in, I believe, New York City. And she's just trying to start a new life, in essence. So she's basically having a room with her aunt in return for, kind of doing some work there. And there's tension between she and her aunt about becoming like all the other women in the family. Meanwhile, there's someone killing people within the hotel, and it does have that kind of like slasher aspect to the film, but there's actually a lot more that's going on. I'm not going to tip my hand too much on what's ultimately happening with this film, but the reason it's WTF is a lot of the characters are kind of WTF. There is some content in here that some people may find WTF. I didn't find it as much. One of the things that one of the characters does for pleasure is very WTF and weird. And then the end, there's a moment that may be very WTF for people, but I did see it coming, so it wasn't like a huge shock. But then after that, literally to end the film, there is something that they just throw in there that's very left field that I literally said WTF when I watched it. I was like, what? This is very left field. Why did we do this? Literally WTF. So I would be interested to know what people's takes on this film are. I enjoyed the film overall. I think it's a good film, but it definitely has a good amount of WTF to it. There's a head lopping scene in it too that's pretty fun. Gonna be honest, just throw that out there. But my most WTF pick for 72, Private Parts. Check it out. Best gore. Now, this category is going to go to The Last House on the Left. Now, I know some of you may be saying, well, their stuff's not that bloody. The kills aren't that bloody, but they're disturbing. They feel personal. That's one of the biggest reasons. So it's not necessarily gore from the aspect of the blood and guts. They didn't go super over the top with it. It's the feel of the kills. And I think a lot of people would agree that that is a very disturbing film. When it came out, it felt too real and too disturbing for people. And I mean, I think when you still watch it, it really does feel that way. So the kills feel more disgusting. They feel more personal. They feel more disturbing. And for that reason, I'm going to pick them as the best gore. Obviously, it's a revenge film of sorts. You all know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say the R word because of YouTube. But yeah, it is a revenge film of sorts. Very hard for some people to watch it, but it is an important film. It is a very well done film. And yeah, it's disturbing. It's very disturbing. So for all those reasons is why my best gore pick for 72 is The Last House on the Left. Now I'm going with most unique. The most unique film for me is a Hammer film called Vampire Circus. Now, the reason I'm picking this is because there's so many vampire films. There's so many vampire films in the 70s. There's so many vampire films pre-70s and even after. I have been sick of vampire films. Vampire Circus I saw, I think last year or the year before. Not sick of that one. That is an interesting vampire film. It kind of does its own thing. Yes, it has some of like the old school vampire stuff in it, but the premise is cool. It's basically about a town that is closed off from everyone else because I believe there's some sort of disease going on. I think it may have been the plague in this. So if anyone tries to leave the town, they're basically killed. Like the country that they're living in, they're keeping them contained because they don't want the disease getting out. Meanwhile, what does get into the town is a traveling circus that has, you guessed it, vampires with it. So a lot of the fun and interesting stuff and unique aspect of it is how this carnival, this circus, interacts with the people who are living within the town. The performances that they do are interesting. It's just a different, fun, interesting vampire film. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. The performances are really interesting. The performance is a little weird at times, but that really adds to the charm of it. And it's just got this fun, awesome feel to the film. There's a really cool moment where someone basically turns into a panther. And the way they shot that, for being in 1972, pretty impressive. Like, it's kind of this thing where, like, something gets in the way, so it just kind of, like, goes from a person's legs to, like, a panther's legs. Very, very cool. Super fun film. I highly recommend people watch Vampire Circus. A lot of fun, and that is why I've picked it as my most unique pick for 1972. Now going to the most overrated film, and I know there are going to be some people out there who don't like that I'm picking this as most overrated. The Legend of Boggy Creek. I hear a lot about this film. I have heard a lot about this film. And I know Joe Bob Briggs is in the same boat as me as not understanding the gigantic hype with The Legend of Boggy Creek. He showed it on the last drive-in, and I really identified with him when he was saying, I don't really understand why people love this so much. I don't get it. I mean, I get its importance because it was like this mock documentary style, like going out looking for Bigfoot when obviously it's kind of scripted. I don't think it was fully scripted though. It's boring. I mean, that's the big thing for me. For the most part, it's boring. There's one moment in there that I actually liked, which is when the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch shows up at this person's house and they're literally sitting on the toilet trying to crap, and he starts attacking, and this person has to like jump off the toilet. Like, that made me laugh. That was entertaining. That was fun. But for the most part, it's way longer than it needs to be. Not a whole lot happens. It's super boring. It's literally just like interviewing very uninteresting people, although kind of odd individuals, about Sasquatch. And there's not enough Sasquatch in it either. So like, I don't know, just don't really feel it. It's not my thing. But you can tell me why you really like it. You know, feel free. I'm always open to hearing other people's opinions and everything. But that is why The Legend of Boggy Creek is my pick for most overrated film of 72. Now, I'm going to do a little horror hydration quick. And then I'm going to talk about most underrated film, which I could see some people picking this for the most amazing film for the year, because I considered it a little bit for that. Now, my most underrated film for 72 is Horror Express. Let me tell you the cast, the highlights of the cast. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Telly Savalas. That's all you need to know. Unfortunately, this is pre lollipop sucking Telly Savalas. That's my favorite Telly Savalas, but he was smoking at that point. But I mean, the performances obviously are wonderful. Horror Express is excellent. It's on Shudder at the moment when I saw it. And it literally is about someone who finds this like archaeological find, a creature, and puts it in a box. They put it on a train. They put it on a train, and it's one of those really nice trains that has like these really nice lavish lounge cars. So it's gorgeous just to look at the design of the train, the wonderful acting, and then the mayhem that happens when inevitably the thing in the crate ends up getting out. It's interesting too because it's not straightforward. What ends up happening with that creature and what the creature actually is very interesting. Now, apparently this is based off of the same story that The Thing from Another Planet was originally based off of, which then obviously The Thing by John Carpenter was based off of The Thing from Another Planet. So it has a connection to The Thing, which if you view the film that way, it makes it even more interesting. But even without that, it is a very riveting, very interesting, very well put together film. And it has a good, satisfying ending to it. There is some decent gore in it, to be honest. And some eye bleeding. I think my favorite part was the eye bleeding. Also some eye glowing. That was a lot of fun. But this is a great film. Really, really great film. Like I said, I considered it a little bit for most amazing, but I have chosen Horror Express as my most underrated film because I've seen like one or two people online talk about it, but it does not get the love it deserves. Let's get it going. Let's start talking about it more. So that's it. Those are my picks for 1972. Like I said, watch Uncle Pete's video now, then come here and vote on the community page for who you wanted to vote for, basically. But been having fun with this. Put some comments down there about my picks, about your picks, or just horror stuff in general. Also, have you seen all of these films? Are there any of these films you haven't seen that sound particularly interesting and you're going to check them out now? I'd like to know that as well. Do me a quick favor, and Uncle Pete, subscribe to both our channels because that's the best way to repay us for putting out content for you guys. Literally just subscribe. It's quick, painless, costs you nothing, and it's very easy to do, and we appreciate it. Also hit the notification bell buttons on both our channels, because then you'll know when we're putting up new videos, which Uncle Pete, I believe, is doing 2 a week at this point, and I'm doing 4 a week at this point. So between the two of us, you got a lot of content for each week. We got you covered. Anyway, thank you everyone for taking your time to watch this and be a part of this series. It's been fun. And until next time, keep it brutal.